of. Hopefully my voice is not going out now. We will see. Now. All right. Is it going out?
I've
Is it going out?
unmuted you.
Is it going out?
I've unmuted you. Yeah, we're both on the stream now. Yeah, we're both on the stream now. Yeah, we're both on
No worries. At least they know we are coming.
At
least they know we are coming. We have to get more familiar with all the mixer.
I've muted Twitch, so I'll just listen to you through Discord. Then I don't get no echo. Then I don't get no echo.
Yeah, now I'm muting as well.
Yeah, changed the thing. Yeah, he was in something else, another category last week. You want in poker?
Excuse me?
So, your category for the stream wasn't in poker last week, was it? You swapped it over.
Now it's fine. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's start it. Let's jump into it. Hello, Heroes. This is episode 6 of the Tuesday tournament reviews. In this series, I have a guest who brings me a tournament, and we go through all the questionable hands. And my name is Waldemar Kweiser. You may also know me as Luigi. I have a career of like 14 years as a player, being one of the steadiest winners in mid-stakes and low-stakes tournaments, so I know what I'm talking about. And I already coached more than 100, probably more than 200 students, so I'm familiar with all the pain players go through in low-stakes, mid-stakes. And so, yep, this week's guest is Hattie009. Do you want me to call you Hattie, or you prefer your real name?
Hey, call me Nick. Nick's good.
All right. I just have to mute this alert box, I guess, or just make it a little bit more silent. So you prefer being called Nick, right?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
All right. So Nick is one of our regulars. And 1 second, I'm just muting this. Monitor off. All right. Okay. So you were one of the first guys who started using CheckTheSite actively. In case you don't know, I'm also the founder of CheckTheSite.com, which is a tool to upload and compare full tournaments. And we are going to use that now to identify the spots which we need to discuss. So could you please tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your profession? What is your poker background? What are your goals in poker?
Yeah, no worries. So I'm currently working on the gas network in the UK, putting new gas mains in. My poker background is I've been playing about 5 or 6 years. Last couple of years I've been trying to take it a bit more serious, bit of coaching. I'm in a group coaching program at the minute. Got a couple of courses like Raise Your Edge, things like that. So like I say, the last couple of years I've been studying, trying to take it a bit more seriously. The goal is obviously to be professional one day, but it's tricky having a job, balancing poker. studying and then having a family as well. It's like it's hard work. Just playing poker and studying on its own without having to juggle the rest of it. So one day maybe,
Huh?
hopefully.
All right. You said you have kids. How many of
Yeah, I've got 3 girls. I'm surrounded by women.
Oh,
So
really? Okay.
yeah,
I only have two, one boy and one girl. But yeah, one girl is enough
yeah.
for me.
They're
But
they're 11, 5 and 3. So the 5 and the 3 year old are at each other quite a bit, but the 11-year-old's not so bad. He's well behaved.
yeah. All right. Yep. Before we jump into the tournament, I think it's worth talking a little bit about like what strategy you should select in terms of bankroll management and schedule. Do you have any clear thoughts about it or clear strategy, like how to build? Do you have a separate poker bankroll, or you it's flexible, or how do you
Uh,
handle this?
I don't want to do. I have a small bankroll. Like it's nothing major. Like I usually play up to $33 is my maximum buy-in. If I have a win or a good week or I'm playing well, I'll take a couple of shots at the 55s, maybe the odd 109 and the big series events. But I'm quite fortunate that my job pays quite well, so I don't really need to be too conservative with my bankroll. If I want to take shots, I've always got funds available. So I mean, I don't go crazy and like start spunking off like 1,000 buy-ins, but I don't have to worry so much. I'd say.
Well, uh, like I think a big mistake many players, including my past self, commits is like not being conscious enough, like what tournaments they should play according to their goals. I used to play sessions for 8 years, just opening up the stars lobby and registering any tournament where I felt I had an edge, and that's obviously not the best way to go. And like obviously it's a little bit different when you have a strict role, like you are a professional player, and if you go busted, you have to uh, go
Yeah,
and get staked, or giving up much of your profit. So
definitely.
it is really something you have to consider. And I think the biggest mistake many newcomers do, or just players who haven't had the chance to think this through properly, is to play too too many big field events too frequently. Like if the majority of your schedule is built of big tournaments with like 4,000 participants or even more,
I
then
do. I do prefer the smaller field events where there's 300 to 400 runners, where the variance is a little bit less. So, like I said, I don't play the big field events, but my main target will be like the $11 4K guarantee and things like that. They're the more ones I'm more realistic about winning. Whereas the big 11, which has thousands of players, I wouldn't expect to pretty much ever win that. To be honest, even though the field's really soft, you have to run like in God mode to win stuff, something like that.
yeah, 100%
Yeah,
true. Like many players are just not familiar at all with variance. And there is a tool. I'm not sure if you know this, the tournament variance calculator. Have you ever tried this?
I've not tried it. I've seen it, and it produces the graph, doesn't it?
Just some shocking info for the viewers. Like if you play 4,000 4,000 player fields regularly, and 15% pays, your average buy-in is like 22, and your ROI, which is your return on investment, which is a percentage. I guess you are familiar with this, but for the viewers, like if your ROI is 20%, it means that you make make your buy-in plus a 20% extra as a profit. So and how many of these you are going to play? Like if you are a professional player and you you have a session basically 5 times a week, then I guess you can put in somewhere around 5,000 tournaments per year, which is probably not realistic for someone who is not a professional player. Obviously, you have a life. You have to. You cannot afford playing 10-hour sessions every big day. So, but this is what you should do as a professional player. And if we ask for an estimation, like what we can expect for the course of a year, first of all, we see this one, and this tells us that 16% of the times, even if you grind like hell, like very professionally, and your ROI is quite stable, 16% of the times you are going to lose during over the course of the year. And if and like in the top 2.5 percent of outcomes, you are going to make more than 75,000. So this is basically how variance works. And if we ask for 20 random samples, we can see that there is one guy who who is sun running, and he makes or she makes over 140,000. And there is another guy who has the same skill set, grinds the same steady schedule, makes the same good decisions, and he loses 32K. So this is what every poker player should be familiar with. This is not saying I'm not saying that poker cannot be beat or poker is just pure luck. This is not true at all. But you have to be very conscious about how you construct your schedule. So if you just make a small difference, which is not that small, but let's go back to tournaments with 500 runners and this similar structure and the similar volume, and we click on calculate. Now what we see is that the chance of you not making a profit over the course of the year is very, very low, a little bit less, a little bit more than 1%. Most of the time you are going to make some profit, but obviously you need extreme luck to make over 40,000. And what we see now is that most of the guys finish green over the course of the year. There is still one guy who is just damned or who has
hopefully not me next year.
yeah, like so it can still happen that you lose all the crucial flips in the end games, and all the things we are all familiar with. So but you can see that most of the guys already make profit. And if we are good enough to increase our ROI to like 40%, you have to be like really good to make 40% nowadays. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible at all. You can probably make even more, but I've seen many of my students to be like very steady, very passionate about poker, grinding a lot, studying a lot, and still making less than 30% ROI. So it's not like super easy, and it's not just about commitment to make 40% ROI. But yeah, let's say you are good enough to work with that, and then what we can see is that there is basically no chance of you not making a profit over the year. And now finally the green guy came out of the muck and making a decent profit. Obviously much less than the Sunrare guy, and there is a decent chance that this guy is going to be the coach of this, although they are exactly on the same level. And this is what you often see in tournaments, that there is some guy like highlighted, like being in the news every week, and everyone is admiring him. And chances are that, first of all, he's a good player, because a good player has much better, much easier way um, uh, go in God mode. But on the other hand, it is very likely that he's way over his expected value, which is normal. Like someone has to be there, but you always have to keep in mind that you should rather just focus on yourself, because what is another important aspect of these graphs is that this guy, even though he grinded through half of the year without making any profit, we assume that he still was able to put a good enough performance in to be a 40% ROI guy. But many guys in reality, after such a bad streak, they just start doubting themselves. They start making unnecessary adjustments in their game, and overall just not putting in the volume. They may have to go down in stakes, etc. So this is another important aspect of these graphs. But yeah, if you have a steady win rate and you put in the volume, then you can expect results in tournaments. But the two most important factors are the number of players and your ROI, and obviously the volume. So for a recreational player, if you want to actually experience decent like success in your everyday grind, then you probably have to cut back the number of players significantly, because then you have a realistic chance to actually show profit even with a much smaller volume. So if we go by this, you are still like if you only play 500 tournaments per year, you still have a decent chance to make profit. But if the same happens in a five with 5,000 average field, then one second. Oh no, it's winner takes. So one sec. So yeah, then so if you play the same with 5,000, then it's almost like 50-50 whether you win or lose over a year. So this is what you have to keep in mind about variance. And my best advice is to normally like 95% of your volume should be with small fields, and you should give yourself like one or maximum three tournaments per week with big fields, which have the chance to like give you a real bankroll boost, like winning the Sunday Million or mini Sunday Million or whatever your favorite tournament is with big fields.
Yeah, I do prefer the smaller fields. Like I said, the variance is a lot less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to mention this because if someone told me this at the start of my career, that would have made me, I don't know, like definitely hundreds of thousands of dollars extra, because then I could have avoided being staked in like in the majority of my career. Not shouldn't have give up much of my profit, etc. So yep, let's go with the hands. But first of all, let's see who we have here. So we have Anna777, Adrian. Hello, welcome back to the show. He's another big regular of the stream. And Darren JBE, he's also a regular. Welcome back. Glad to see you here. And he has a question that what do you think about these small fields, really small, like 50 to 100? What ROI can you make there? Well, the main issue with really small fields, like let's say you just play heads up, then your opponent has to be really terrible to be able to beat him with a high enough ROI with like with a normal 10% rake. So the bigger the field, the higher average ROI you can make. So for example, in a huge field tournament, in a 10th anniversary Sunday Million, you probably have extremely high ROI, but your chances of realizing that high ROI is just low. And so normally I would try to avoid tournaments with less than 100 runners. This was our rule of thumb when I was in bit staking. The statistician guy Felix told us not to play tournaments with less than 100 runners. But if the tournaments like in the morning tournaments where people are just significantly weaker than in the evening schedule, then you can probably play some with like 70 runners. Those are still beatable, but yeah, you have to be very careful with those, and you may have to make sure that you have a decent ROI, or actually higher ROI, if you want to play those small field tournaments. Yes, Pelady also arrived. Hello, Pella. Welcome to the show. And there is a question from Sam Oldfield. Shout out to Luigi for the insane customer support yesterday, for live calling me on Discord and sort out a few glitches I had. You're welcome, Sam. Yeah. So 150, 500 runners is the best choice, and some lottery Sunday major. Yeah. That's basically my advice. Anyway, let's get back to your tournament. So if in case someone is not familiar with CheckDecide, in CheckDecide you can upload a full tournament. How many clicks did it take for you to upload this tournament?
5 at the most, maybe.
Yeah.
not
So
a lot.
So we try to make it really, really easy. And after you uploaded it, I visited your profile, and I went through the hands. So for example, in the first hand, I had to make the same decision, had to face the same decision as you did when playing the hand. And I elected to call, which turned out to be matching your decision, and the hand always goes on according to the decision of the original player. So for example, facing this c-bet, I decided to just flat call, but I saw that you decided to raise, and we will discuss this in a minute. And the hand goes on according to your play originally, obviously, but my decision is booked, and on the turn I have to decide according to your steps. So if I happen to raise on the flop, I definitely barrel this, and let's say I bet this big, and we can see that you elected to bet a little bit bigger, and the hand is over, and my match percentages in the are in the top left corner. So we can see that my decisions matched 60% of yours in this hand. And if I open this multibar, I can select my name, and we can see which hands we agreed on. So we will not have to talk about this 7-7 or Queen 7, but we should probably talk about this first hand and then the fifth. So let's go with the first one once again, and we can display this. And yeah, the call is quite okay. In a high stakes tournament, when there are a bunch of aggro guys behind you and they are going to squeeze you, but they won't necessarily squeeze you for like pure value. They will squeeze some hands like Queen 10 suited, which you don't have all that much of an implied odds against. So it's not really worth calling those kind of squeezes out of position with a small pocket pair. In that case, folding this hand is okay if the guys behind you are reasonably aggressive. But in a relatively low stakes tournament with passive guys behind you, it is a very fine call. And on the flop, I decided to just call. My main problem is that it is very, very hard to balance this raise. So vast majority of your holdings are mediocre holdings, like ace. Maybe you have ace queen. Mostly you would even 3-bet those. So you mainly have ace jack, ace 10, a lot of king x, and a lot of gutshot type hands, and some flush draws. So could you name a few hands you would raise here?
Maybe Queen Jack of spades, Queen Ten of spades, possibly. Ace X of spades. It's probably about it. I don't have aces and kings, don't have ace king. So I only got sets of twos. My thinking with raising was I don't block the ace, I don't block the king, and I don't block no spades. So it should be calling me quite hard. Well,
Yeah,
not hard.
like if we put this into a solver, I think the solver would raise some percentage of the time with these uses. But I'm just a little bit afraid that most of the guys who raise here just don't find the bluff raises, because it is just so convenient to call with a flush draw, call with an ace, call with a king, call with a gut shot, whatever. So a big skill of and another thing is a big skill of playing low stakes and mid stakes tournaments is that most of your opponents will not base their decisions on strict strategy or theory. They will mostly go by their reads on the population. So if they think that a race here is too strong, then they will overfold. And I guess in this situation, they will be right about that. But obviously, if you are up against some very random guy, loose passive type, calling station type guy, then raising this hand is super perfect. Like you can do that all day. But against a more like aggressive, skilled thinking player, I would probably go by a simplification and not having a raise range here, and just delaying the action to the later streets, because this is one of the advantages of being in position to be like when you are in position, you mainly want to delay the action to the later streets, unless your hand is super vulnerable, or you have some very specific reason to fast play it. Most of the time, you just want to delay to the later streets, where you can make decisions with much more certainty, much more information collected, because you have seen what your opponent did on the pre-flop, on the flop, on the turn, and on the river, and then you still have a chance to decide about the majority of your chips. And this is the main the core of No Limit Hold'em, that out of position you mainly want to explode the pot, decrease the stack to pot ratio, and fast play as many times as possible. Trying to avoid playing river with high stack to pot ratio and a lot of information given out. And in position it's quite the contrary. So you mainly want to delay the action, and then even like giving up some value like here, and on the other hand, not revealing anything about your hand, and your opponent will have to play a guessing game on the river, whether to check call, check fold, bet call, etc. And this is what you want to do mainly. So when I have such a narrow raising range, value range, I think calling is a little bit better. But on the turn, I can get behind the bigger size you selected, because your opponent can have a lot of like top pair and the flush draw, second pair and the flush draw, gutshot and the flush draw, this type of folding. So then it's fine. Unfortunately, he folded. I think we have some questions. Just Adrian telling that also exploitatively you have to keep his bluffs. Against most hands, you are like 90% favorite, 97% favorite. Yeah, that's another point. Like if your opponent is a barreling machine, like he's conscious that if your opponent is conscious that he raised from early position, this is all his flop, and he's the type of guy who will try to put a lot of pressure on you on later streets, like barreling all the gut shots. Hello, how are you? What's it? Is it a boy or a girl?
It's a boy. It's a sausage dog.
Uh,
Slinky.
all right. What's his name?
Slinky, like
Slinky.
Toy Story. The
Oh,
Toy
okay.
Story sausage dog. Was it six?
Hello, Slinky. All right. Yeah, let's jump to the yeah. So if your opponent bears a lot, trying to put a lot of pressure on your medium hands, then having a strong call like this is very reasonable. The next one is just a questionable whether to open raise or open fold. It is really borderline. Even in the charts, it is like 50% raise, 50% fold. I just want to mention that whenever there is a situation like this, mainly you want to focus on the big blind and the button, because those are going to be your most frequent opponents in this in any opening situation. So in this case, take a look at the cold calling or three betting stats of the button, or the fold big blind versus steal stats of the big blind, and make a decision. But if you always fold, it's not a big deal. Obviously, if you are a big stack and you are in the final table or bubble, etc., you definitely open it. But I don't think I have to emphasize that. The next one is King 7, suited on the big blind. Normally, I'm a little bit worried about defending marginal hands against 3x opens, because I think most of the players have different ranges for 3x open than for a normal like 2.2, 2.5x opens. But
I
sometimes
think it's somewhere on the bottom. I don't tend to tighten up against the bigger raises, but I think a suited king's just about all right.
Yeah. I agree with that, but yeah, I would probably fold Queen 9 of suit and those
Yeah,
type of hands. I don't think you can make those profitable if it's true that his 3x range is just stronger. And yeah, we flopped okay. Very standard check call. We are not really happy that he bet half pot, which is somewhat bigger than the usual sizing, but on this texture, it doesn't mean a lot. It is very solver approved to use this sizing. And yeah, on the turn, once again, we are facing a half pot size. Yeah, I'm calling as well. I just want to mention that like two things, and they are contradicting a little bit. But if you understand the difference, then they can these concepts or these ideas or population reads can be very useful. So first of all, people in general in low stakes, one of their biggest lake is that they don't find enough bluffs in their three barreling ranges. So whenever there is a questionable spot where you check called, and checked on the river and your opponent barreled, you should lean more towards check folding on the river, unless you have like very specific raid or very specific hand unblocking bluffs, etc. But most of the time, you just have to prepare to check fold. But one exception is when you are facing a total recreational, like some kind of 60-40 type guys, like 60% VPIP, playing 60% of the hands and raising 40% of the hands. These type of guys have the strange tendency of raising and exactly half potting every single straight without any connection to the board. So so when you see exactly this, and this actually fits this guy, like he made a 3x raise, which can be strong, but if you also see a ridiculous pre-flop statistic with him, then you can lean towards boxing him as this type of aggressive veil, and then I think I would make an exception and mostly check call on the river if he continues with half pot, half pot, half pot, because that's very like signature line from these type of players. But anyways, I don't want to go too far with these kind of reads because they can be tricky and they can mislead you. But I just have this read on the population, and yeah, I'm a little bit yeah, I'm glad to share it. Yeah, and on the river,
Station, Luigi.
excuse me.
He was calling station in these spots.
Like not like against most guys I'm not, but against these guys, yeah, I am. And yeah, the river is an interesting card. Like you have a few more 10x probably because you have queen 10 and your opponent probably doesn't have queen 10, but he has more ace queens, set of kings, set of jacks than you do. So I don't think this river actually favors you that much to be able to fire a blocking bet, because normally we want to apply blocking bets when the river or the board really favors our range. So and this is not the case. Like he's not capped at all. He can still very comfortably raise with straight or better. So I don't really like the blocking bet here. I would just check and evaluate. If he finishes the river with half pot, I think I call. If he goes all in, I think I fold. I think I fold, and this is just not a thing here. I don't think you should use this sizing. Yeah. Whatever. This is definitely towards the very bottom of your range you get here with this all this sizing, the river bet, etc. So I don't think you have to call this one. I can still imagine him sometimes bluffing with some random combination if he's that type of aggro whale, but I don't think it happens too frequently. So it's a fine fold, but I would not lead out on the river. Yeah, Adrian is saying that party before no HUDs. Yeah, my bad. Yep, probably. Yeah, you cannot apply the stats there. Yeah, we can jump over this one and let's take a look at this 10-8 suited. Once again, the guy 3x's, and this is like probably the same guy. I'm not sure like whether the player and the number reflects or refreshes every hand. Do you have any idea about that?
I think it's the same one. We're only 9 hands in, so I can't imagine we've changed table already. So yeah, I think so. I think it's the same man.
Yeah, probably the same man, and using once again this oversizing. So this is a little bit suspicious now, and maybe he's just going banana. But let's see. Like I think actually folding this with 60 big blind is okay-ish. If we were much deeper, then both calling or actually sometimes squeezing might be an option, because you can fold out some if you are facing a guy who opens all the offsuit broadways, then 3-betting these type of holdings is a very like attractive option, because you can fold out normally the offsuit broadways, and that's very important. But if he is the type of guy who doesn't fold offsuit broadways to 3-bets out of position, or he's tight enough not to open many of those, then either calling or just folding, because you are dominated a lot. And yeah, maybe folding is an option, but to be honest, in game I almost always call.
Yeah.
And on the flop, I don't think you have to do much of a betting. This is not your texture. Sometimes you have ace jack sometimes, but sometimes you even 3-bet those, especially the offsuit ace jacks hands. That's a fine squeeze combination in the button. Yeah, so you have pocket uses and some combo draws for strong hands, so you don't need to do a lot of betting. Cannot do. And yeah, on the turn we fold. And let's see this one. So yeah, once again the guy's 3x's. So now we have a strong read to say that probably this is not that strong of a range. Yeah, and on the flop, once this flop hits our range in general quite well, but this holding is just pure air. So I think we cannot bet our entire range because he also has many hands like ace queen, weaker kings, tens with 1 diamond, jacks with 1 diamond, pocket all kind of pocket pairs with 1 diamond. He is not folding, so I don't think his checking range is super weak to be able to attack too frequently. And yeah, I think just basically giving it up, or maybe on this river like a tiny bet is good, because on these kind of 4 flush runouts, I think they have fairly inelastic ranges to call. So there are, if they have a diamond, or if they have 2 pair or set somehow, then I think they will call you anyway, even if you bet like full pot. But if they don't have a diamond, they have pocket jacks or pocket tens or worse without a diamond, they fold it anyway. And especially given that population doesn't really like to bluff with 1/3 sizing in this spots, I think this is a very cheap and very efficient way of bluffing. And it's not the end of the world if they call you like you lost a few chips, but it can work very well. To be honest, in general, I would say that mostly you should look for overbets and tiny bets on the river, because those are the sizing your average opponent is not really familiar with. They don't have any experience how to deal with those. So they are like, you don't need to be a poker poker genius to defend against half pot sizings. You mainly just have to fold your weakest hands and call your medium hands or better hands, and that's it. You don't make huge mistake in that case. But if you face a 1/3 bet, you should make a lot of uncomfortable calls, like really ridiculous calls. So for example, here you should make a lot of calls without a diamond or without 2 pairs. So
would he have to call ace highs to a small bet here? Would that have to be in his calling range?
some, like, depending on how he thinks his or bluffing range looks like, I think many of our bluffs are going to be ace highs, which are like cruising towards the river, sometimes going into heading to showdown, sometimes looking for a spot to turn it into bluff. So as our range mostly contains ace highs, or bluffs are mostly ace highs, I think he should rather look for small pocket pairs like sevens without a diamond, etc. But as population in your shoes never really makes such bluffs, like tiny bluffs, I think it's not even correct. If you are facing an unknown player who is probably not creative enough to make this bluff, then I would suggest just check folding 7s or 9s here in his shoes without a diamond. So that's why these bluffs are really, really efficient, and I would suggest those. And we see a showdown, and this was a 3x pin from early position. So you didn't expect to have showdown value here, but more importantly, we have
I just remembered the hand now. I just remembered it. Just remembered it.
Yeah. Okay. So we will handle him a little bit differently later on, or we should handle him for sure. And let's see the next one. Maybe it is going to be against him. Right ahead. Yeah, he calls. And on the flop, I think it's a very natural small c bet. You can simply bet your entire range here, and obviously, if you have all the time in the world to study this spot in the solvers, you would probably come up with a strategy more sophisticated than simply betting your entire range here. But the difference of expected value between those two strategies, the very simple one, betting range, and the more complex one, checking behind some hands like jacks and tens and kings maybe, or queens, queen x hands, etc., and balancing those with some ace x's and draws, etc. The difference is just doesn't it isn't worth the effort and time put in. So I would go with the range c bet here. And as he called, yeah, the turn is not a super good card to barrel. But what I would like to mention that, first of all, you have quite a few strong hands here. You would like to barrel, actually. So ace king, you would definitely like to barrel. Aces, kings, queens for a set, or fives for a set, you would like to barrel. You have all the jack 10 of suits and jack 10 suited, you would absolutely would like to barrel. So you should look for some bluff candidates as well. And what many players misunderstand about these situations is that you should not look for hands which block the two pairs or block the straights, and you should not look for hands like queen jack or queen 10 to bluff here. It is quite intuitive to select those cards, because obviously you would not like to run into king queen or jack 10 here, but if you take a look at the solver suggestion, they would suggest hands like pocket threes, pocket fours, pocket deuces, pocket sixes, the lowest pocket pairs you have here. And the reason behind this is that it is more important not to block any of his very natural check call, check call, check fold hands on a blank river, like king jack, queen 10, king 10, low aces. Feel very, very uncomfortable if you triple barrel here, and also some flush draws and gut shots, flush draws and pairs. So he can have a bunch of those, and it's okay if you run into two pairs. That's fine. You can still make a very decent profit by barreling these spots with the proper combinations, not blocking his easiest check folds on a blank river. So that's why theoretically you should go for triple barrels with small pocket pairs. The reason why small pocket pairs are better than some kind of other air, like 6-7 of clubs or something like that.
We don't block the pairs we want to fold, then, do we?
Excuse me?
If we barrel our 2s and 3s and 4s, we don't block it, but it's better than 6-7 because we don't block the 6s and 7s we're targeting. Is that right?
This 6s and 7. Yeah, you mean he's likely to call with?
No, you said that you were saying that low pairs are a better barrel here than say 6-7. But is that because we want to fold 6-7 in this spot? Well, Villa to fold 6s and 7s.
Yeah. If he is the type of guy who still who calls the c bet with 6s or 7s on this flop, then yeah, that's a valid point. But mainly, the main reason why you want to triple barrel small pocket pairs is that because sometimes they can river a set, and that add extra equity, extra possibility. That's a very sweet moment when you are planning to fire triple barrel with absolute no showdown value, and then your set arrives on the river, and you can actually value bet. That's I think that's the main reason. But you also had a valid point by not blocking 6s and 7s. Yeah. So sometimes barreling this type of combo can be okay, but I would mainly go with the smallest pocket pairs, especially against someone who I cannot, like, given his showdown, I would not not be sure that he folds like King 10 or King Jack on a blank river. Do you think he's the type of guy like?
No, I don't think he's ever going to fold an ace, ace 2, ace 3, ace 4. I think if I triple off, he'll still call with all aces.
Yeah, like that's not the end of the world. If he only calls with ace x hands on the river, then this can still be a profitable triple barrel here. Obviously, betting this turn and not betting the river is probably a mistake, because as we broke it down, he has a lot of natural calls here on the turn. But yeah, like I'm just afraid that he would sometimes call me with King Jack or King 10 as well, and that's probably a disaster. Yeah, and yeah, if we somehow got here, I think we have to fire, just to try to fold out those type of natural call folds. Yeah, checking the river is not a thing on a.
I was close. I was close to firing. I backed out last minute.
Yeah, you probably saved money, because I don't think that after the earlier showdown we can expect him to fold any ace, so
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, it obvious. On the other hand, you have to keep in mind that you can have very different barreling frequencies in these spots early in a game and in late games. In late stages, if you are the bigger stack and you can pressure his whole stack, especially if you can leverage his whole stack, like putting him all in on the river, you have much higher.
I'd be surprised to see him in the late game if he carries on with 2-3.
Yeah, but sometimes you can never know. Yeah. One sec. Yeah, Adrian is suggesting a 1/3 pot on the river, mainly targeting the weakest Coco hands, like Queen Jack, Queen 10, King 10, and some similar holdings. Normally that could work against average guys, but against this one, I think we cannot force him to fold King X hands then. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we started with a few very interesting hands with a lot of like population rates involved. Yeah. Like normally against the 3x this would be an easy fold, but given his earlier showdowns, obviously we are tempted to call here. Yeah, I would probably call based on the trade use of suit, but it's not the end of the world if you
Yeah.
fold. Like the problem is, even if he's loose, he's barreling like hell, and he will, like, the worst thing you can do is to let him build pots over and over again against your marginal holdings, and you are forced to fold on the turn or on the river, then that's it. That's much worse than a strategy from you than just playing a bit tighter and actually setting traps for him with medium holdings.
Yeah.
All right, the open is very standard. He got 2 calls, and yeah, you decided to bet big.
Yeah, I don't like it now because I've blocked the continue, so I'm not really a fan of it.
Yeah, like obviously, if you have like pocket fours here, then betting this big is very very fine.
Yeah,
They will have a lot of king x, especially this guy probably won't fold. And if they have a flush draw, they hate their life. They either fold a lot of equity, or they just check call and realize poorly, or they check raise and they run into your big hand. So yeah, with pocket fours it's fine, but blocking the king and blocking the queen, I think I would rather go with the smaller bet, maybe half pot bet, because you don't really want to c-bet too much against the small blind on a Broadway texture. So the small blind calling range is much different than the big blind calling range. The big blind has the
yeah,
comfort to like finish the action, close the betting round, and not being worried about anyone raising behind them. But the small blind has to be concerned about these options, so they have to tighten up their calling ranges, mainly with suited aces, broadways, some pocket pairs. So therefore, normally you have to be very selective c-betting on this texture. You only want to bet your best draws, your best kings, maybe some ace 10, ace jack with 1 heart, but really not a lot. We were lucky enough to get a call here, and then we want to barrel. Well, given the stack to pot ratio, like we can see that stack to pot ratio is less than 2, but very close to 2. I don't think you want to use this sizing, even if your opponent can still have some combo draws, some pair plus draws. I think you have to select a somewhat smaller sizing. Yeah, this may be too small. Probably something like 20, 25. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not really familiar with these big c-bet sizes what you chose on the flop. So it's a bit tricky. I assume you don't have too many weak holdings here, and he still can have some good draws which have live outs against this good holding of yours. So yeah, I think I would go with something like 24k, and then
yeah.
yeah. But you were lucky enough to get an all-in, and we called, and he somehow overvalued king jack here. Yeah, like looking at this hand, the only thing I want to mention is that this is a very good example why you want to avoid all the marginal spots. So as long as you have opponents who are this blind to the game, I have to say that this is a very bad stack off. If someone c-bets this huge on this texture with the veil in the pot, you have to be very concerned with the king jack, and then I would fold this on the turn all the time. And instead he actually check raised. So as long as you have such easy money to earn, you should try to avoid all the marginal spots. In other cases, like when you have a slightly plus CV hero call on the river against an unknown guy, you probably want to fold. When you have some marginal pre-flop stack off situation like raise calling, 4-bet jamming, whatever, you want to avoid those. This is very crucial for you to actually utilize the the value of your stack and make the most of it. If you take all the marginal spots, even if they are clearly plus CV but just slightly plus CV, then
Just be quiet about yeah.
all right. Hello, darling. What's your name?
This is Imogen. Say hello.
Hello, kitty.
Say hi to Luigi.
No. All right. Okay. So back to the game. Yeah. So you clearly want to be very conscious, like when to commit your whole stack, and because every questionable situation has a huge opportunity cost. Because you miss out some much more profitable spots later on, or you just don't get to the end game where these kind of mistakes or other mistakes are like really like burning money. All right, let's see the next one. Yeah, Mr. 3x guy. Actually, I would be tempted to just rejam here, even if he has like 39 big blinds. If he raises three deuce of suit or similar hands, he is probably raising like 60% of his hands or 70% of his hands, depending on whether he adjusted or not. I think he's not the type who adjusted. So I think maybe rejamming is a profitable option, or just calling. Maybe I was tired when reviewing this hand, but given the history, I would definitely put money in the pot, and I would prefer rejamming probably, especially given that the big blind is really short and our hand is not like super easy to play, out of position, not connected. We cannot pick up a gut shot. We cannot pick up flush draws. So it will be very hard to realize our equity against someone who likes to barrel. But we got a very decent flop and the standard half pot sizing, and we face the big bet. Now, this is a slightly different than the earlier one. So now he selected to make a bigger size bet, and we are blocking some of the flush draws he could do this with. Oh boy, I really hate my life here, because if it just half pots and goes all in on the river, it is a very very happy.
I was thinking we chop a lot now as well. Now the board paired, so I wasn't sure what I should be calling three streets with this or not. He might still do it with ace queen, ace jack, ace 10.
Yeah, but yeah. On the other hand, even if you have the 9 of diamond, which makes it a little bit less likely for him to barrel with a flush draw, he can still do that sometimes. Or you should never underestimate the random moves they can have. So given all the history and what we have seen and discussed of him here in the show, I think I would put the money in. But when I was just reviewing this tournament, clicking very very quickly, my default play was to fold. So it shows that probably it's close, given the sizing difference. Yeah. But yep. All right. No more questions.
Go with sister.
Isn't she cold?
I don't think so. She had a jammers on when I saw her last. They've gone.
All right. Yep. Yeah, probably putting it in is better, but given the sizing, I don't mind folding that much.
Yeah.
I think this is still the same guy. We cannot be sure about that. And on the turn, yeah, normally you don't really want to lead out on overcard turns especially when a c-bettable flop is checked behind. But maybe he c-bets all his ace king, king queen type hands, and then his check behind range is more like ace four, ace three, pocket sixes and pocket tens and stuffs like that. Then maybe you want to bet some of your good draws, but this is not a fantastic draw, so I think checking is really fine. But given he didn't bet, I would sometimes go for a huge bet, overbet, or at least a big bet. I like the sizing going over 10k just to make it look a little bit bigger. This works quite okay against like weaker opponents, but you have to be careful with this kind of sizing tells against regulars with smaller player pool. They can make some reads and then this can backfire. But yeah, I think it is a very fine big bet on the river. And once again, this is underused by the population. Many guys just give it up, expecting no fold equity. But given that you block some of his mostly like stronger hands, like his strongest hands on the river are probably maybe pocket nines. Yeah, ace queen, but probably not. Probably c-betting, probably betting the turn. But yeah, I think it's an okay combination. Yeah, actually, DOS X says that on the turn, if we assume that most of his checkbacks are not hands like ace king or king queen, but hands like under pocket pairs, then betting this marginal holding on the turn with a small sizing makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I can agree with that. I haven't studied these spots too much. I probably oversimplified by simply just remembering not to lead out too much, not to probe too much on turns when it's an overcard to the flop. But yeah, I think betting with this holding, especially if the check behind ranges are somewhat fucked up, then it's reasonable. Oh, sorry for the bad words. Okay. Oh, okay. He actually misread the spot, but still it's a valid point. Yeah, against the open raise, calling or three betting are both fine. Given the 14 big blind stack behind us, who can jam quite wide, but has to tighten up against the three bet significantly. Maybe three betting is a little bit better. If you take a look at the Monker charts, like 50, 60 big blind deep against the cutoff. Let's see 60 big blind deep versus the cutoff. The button half calling and three betting are both very valid options, and 50 big blinds deep versus the cutoff. 50 big blind, it's rather a call. So it in these cases, I mainly want to go with the call because I want to keep the pot small, and therefore I will be able to utilize my positional advantage more.
Yeah.
But if the guys on the big blinds are either like world class players or just simply overly aggressive, then I would probably go with the three bet to force them out of the pot and play with the original player. So yeah, you have a lot of room to maneuver here. And yeah, checking behind is probably fine. You don't want to see bet your whole range on this texture. He has a lot of connection here. And on the turn we have an easy call. And on the river, I think value betting is a little bit too optimistic. I think when we check here, we have the best hand like 90% of the time, but this doesn't make it a value bet, because the value bet definition, just for starters, it is that the times when they call your bet, you should be ahead most of the times, like at least 50% of the time. So and that's a very different range. And also, if you are up against some super tricky player.
What are they? They're going from.
All right,
She's back.
I come back. And yeah, so if you are up against some super tricky player, they sometimes can pressure you because your range is very much kept. So if you value bet too thin in these situations where your range is clearly capped, then it can backfire some from time to time. But realistically, most of your opponents will not have check raising ranges. So if you are up against some like known, very passive, very honest calling station type guy, you may want to try a 1/3 bet on the river, which is a little bit greedy, but fine. Yeah, let's see the next one. I think we are back to our hero. A very fine call. I probably didn't realize that this is the same guy, so that's why I suggested a fold. Normally, against under the gun player from the cutoff, you probably want to fold this, but against this guy, it obviously don't. And on this texture, I think betting is fine. This really hits your range a lot, and I don't expect this type of guy. He seems like a very simple guy, probably not too tricky. I think betting is fine. I don't think you will get check raised too often, but if you check behind, he may start betting too big with some second pairs. He would happily check call against your bet with. So I think you can realize much better by betting on the flop and deciding on the river on the turn whether to barrel or check behind. Yeah, fine. Folding against this bigger bet, I think it's fine.
Just felt like it slow played a set or two pair.
Well, you can never know. Like maybe he just fired big with ace-9 or a gut shot, or really he has a wide variety of hands to pick up equity. Yeah, and here only a small sizing difference, so let's go with this one. Like this once again a questionable open. Let's.
Yeah, it's very, very bottom of the range.
Yeah, like once again, it depends a lot on the big blind and on the button. If they are both on the tighter side or weak, or even just the big blind is a veil you want to play a lot with, then opening is fine. Otherwise, you should rather just fold. Yeah, on this flop, I think you can c-bet quite a lot. You are under the gun opener, you have the strongest range here, and you have a hand which can pick up a lot of equity on a lot of turns. So I think normally you want to be very conservative, c-betting in 3-way or 4-way pots, but this spot is just perfect for that. You will get a lot of respect, and you will be able to barrel on a lot of turns, putting a lot of pressure on even on like mediocre kings. They would hit their life if they face a second barrel on the turn most of the time. So yeah, I think betting is clearly better, and if they lead out, you just have to fold. Yeah, like once again, this guy, against him, I would probably go for a squeeze, but calling is fine as well. He will put in enough chips when you hit your 9.
I'd have probably squeezed if I was in position, but playing out of position with 9-9 against a lunatic, it just didn't seem too good.
Yeah. Like this is one of the cases when it is quite clearly plus EV, but it brings a lot of variance, and many times, even if you make a plus EV move, it means that like 30% of the times or 25% of the times you will be out of the tournament because you were forced to get into a big pot. And even if you didn't lose all your chips, you are short stack and you bust the next hand, and this can boost your early finish rate a lot. And one thing you should all know about tournaments is that if your early finish is super high, then you have a very hard time becoming an actual winning player, even if your EVBB per 100 is like very good. If you bust like 15% of the times early in a tournament, or much higher rate than your average opponents, then you will not get there enough. Yeah, checked around. I think we have to protect our hand here. Normally you want to be very cautious with marginal bets in a three-way pot, but I think this is a good enough situation. I think his checking ranges are not super balanced. Normally the opener should check quite a few Queen X hands here, and also jacks and tens, but given how he played so far, I think he would bet those. So therefore I think betting is fine. Checking and facing this huge bet, it feels very questionable for me. I think maybe folding is better. Definitely borderline. Yeah. Yeah, like if he has these kind of hands, which he should never bet huge with, then obviously fine call. But I would just be worried that he doesn't have these, or so he rather has some slow played Queen X. I'm not sure if he has any of those, but
Yeah.
or maybe he should check his weakest Queen X hands, and then but whatever. No
I want to
problem.
shot. We block some of his bluffs as well when he bets the tail with 9-10 with nines, because obviously 9-10's
Yeah.
a natural bluff, so it's a tricky one.
Yeah. That's why I think it's very questionable on the river, well, on the turn. But yeah, if they are honest on the river, then it can be fine. Yeah. Today is a great day for you, MTT Poker School. No, we are not MTT Poker School. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, we got the raid. Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
The MTT Poker School is the group coaching, which I mentioned earlier on.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Thank you for the support to them. I really appreciate it. I'm just not familiar with streaming enough to pay attention to all the alerts, but we see quite a lot of guys following us now. So this is great. If you like this show, follow us. I decided that if we get to 500 followers, I will switch to stream 2 times a week. So that's my next goal. And who knows? I would definitely like to have a stream with like strategy advices and mental game, because this is quite a popular topic, but still many players suffer. Like mental game is like a filter which suppresses your capacity. So even if you are familiar with all the strategy, did all the necessary work in the lab, but you have a weak mental game and you cannot put all the performance to the table, but you can only put like 50% of your knowledge, or only use 50% of your knowledge. That's a big disadvantage. So that's why every poker player should work on their mental game. And actually the biggest takeaway from my poker career, being mostly an entrepreneur nowadays with Checkyside, is what I learned about like dealing with stress, dealing with with challenges, it is super, super valuable. So for any, even just recreational players, playing regularly and learning how to understand your emotion, how to understand how your focus works, etc. These are just super, super valuable skills you can utilize in your daily work with your family, whatever. Like one of my favorite thoughts is that which I learned in the game of in the book of Daniel Goleman. He has a book called Focus, The Hidden Drive for Excellence, or something like that. That's a fantastic book, and it describes in very detailed how your brain works. So the one of the main points is that there are a group of neurons in your brain which are called von Economo neurons, and these special neurons are activated whenever you have any thought about yourself. So, am I good enough? Do I belong to this tournament? Is this guy playing back at me? Is this my tournament? Is this my big chance to win a big tournament finally? Or any such thinking activates these neurons, the von Economo neurons. And what you also have to know about this is that when they are activated, the fear center of your brain, the amygdala, is activated. And this means that whenever you start thinking about yourself, your focus is fucked. Like, sorry, once again for the kid, like, for using such words. But yeah, she doesn't hear. Okay, you have a headset on. Yeah, all right. But this is true. Whenever you realize that you are thinking about yourself, anything related your ego, anything related yourself, it means that your focus is ruined because your your cognitive knowledge is just suppressed by the how is it called in Hungarian? It's called vegetative, like the very basic functioning of your brain. Whenever you are in danger, you don't start thinking logically. You are just driven by your instincts, your inner drive. So that's what you would like to avoid when you are deep in a tournament. You should never think about yourself, your chances, whatever. You should always try to drive your focus outside yourself and pay attention to your opponents and making plans on your opponents, like okay, this guy seems to be too loose, so I'm going to 3-bet him mostly from this position or that position, or the other guy tends to have a low c-betting range, low c-betting frequency, so I will counter that by doing this and that. And if you start making these kind of plans, you will instantly realize when you are dealt with a hand you can do something creative. You will not just fold and then realize that, hey, I could have done this or that with that hand, but you are prepared to be creative. You will see a lot more opportunities to grab and to collect chips. So this is probably the biggest mental game lesson I learned playing poker, that you should always realize when you are thinking about yourself, and that's a good sign that it start focus outside, focus on the other players, focus on your colleagues, focus on your family members, whatever, and realize that your brain is probably just creating a story for you, and you should avoid those and not go down the rabbit hole. And yeah, whatever. Let's get back to the hands. The hand number 38. Yeah, pocket sevens, fine open, and we face a 3-bet from early position. What do you think about this 3-bet range in general?
It should be quite tight, tightest range versus tightest range. So I don't think it'd be 3-betting to Jack 10 suited, for example.
Yeah, like theoretically, they should three-bet some hands like ace 10 suited, ace 9 suited, king jack suited, king 10 suited maybe, or ace 5 suited. So some kind of blockerish hands as a kind of a bluff. But in practice, I don't think they do that often enough. I think their range is like basically top 3% or even less, like maybe queens plus ace king or something like that. I'm just not sure whether we can call that call against that range, because on one hand he has a lot of ace king off type hands we would not like to fold on the flop, on most of the flops, but on the other hand he has some strong pocket pairs we should fold. So I think folding is actually okay. Calling cannot be too bad either. So yeah, it's fine. But on this flop, we don't beat anything. So it's a very, very easy fold.
Yeah. I mean, if that was a lot shallower, then I'd have folded.
Yeah. A little bit shallower, I would definitely fold. But let's see this one. Yeah, it depends a lot on your villain. But normally 20 big blinds deep versus the hijack open, this is a rather rejam if there is no ICM. So let's see what you should play. 20 big blind deep versus the hijack. This is what you should do from the big blind. So basically rejamming all your pocket pairs, but aces. Aces you should flat, and yeah, you should have some kind of like semi traps like ace jack, king queen suited. These might be like surprising for some of the players, because with ace jack you can definitely make a profitable rejam 20 big blinds versus the hijack. But the main goal of this flat is to keep a lot of dominated hands in, so your opponent can raise a lot of ace 10, ace 9, ace 5, ace 4.
Just need to move the range over a bit, Luigi. Can't see it. Just need to move the range over on the screen. You can't see the BB range.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay. 1 sec. I'm switching to this one. All right. You can see it now, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So the range. Let me adjust this size of that one a little bit, and let's go there. So this is what you see. What you should do from the big blind. So you can see that all the pocket pairs are rejammed. Your strongest aces are rejammed, and some hands like 10-9 suited, Jack-9 suited, Jack-10 suited are rejammed. The reason because these are rejammed.
What on? We're 2 minutes, Luigi. Just carry on.
That's fine. I'm going to talk. And
yeah, okay.
Yeah, just.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Daniel Goleman, not Coleman. Daniel Goleman, another great dude. Yeah. And the question is, why do we defend trashes like Jack 3 offsuit? Yeah, that can be really surprising. The reason is that the shallower the stacks are, the more you can defend, because the positional advantage, the positional disadvantage you have to suffer out of position is not that significant with 20 big blinds as it is with like 200 big blinds. 200 big blinds, your opponent can put a real pressure on you because he has all the good hands. But with 20 big blinds, if you happen to stack off with top pair versus top pair with an inferior kicker, it's not the end of the world. You only lost 20 big blinds. So yeah, but it is still surprising that Jack tray offsuit is actually a defend. It has to be a really aggressive hijack opener. So let's take a look at what ranges the hijack should open. So you see this one. Yeah, actually the hijack should have some limping with 20 big blinds. Otherwise, the opponents can rejam on him even wider than what we saw there. In practice, you can probably get away with having a min raise range only from the hijack, but from the cutoff and the button, you should actually have some limping. So if you take a look at what the cutoff does, you can see some significant limps, and this is especially true in late games when there is a huge ICM pressure on you, and you cannot just raise call ace 10 suited or pocket sixes or whatever. So if that happens, if the ICM pressure is big on you, then you should definitely start working in some limps. Mostly the hands you should mostly include in your limping range are depending on the situation and your opponents, obviously, but mostly you want to get rid of the offsuit broadways, because they you have a lot of them, and if you include your offsuit broadways into your min raising range, it means that you will have a lot of raise folds in these situations, and rather you just want to open limp these, and then if you only raise fold suited hands, they will not represent that many combinations, because yeah, if you talk about like king 10 suited, that's only 4 combinations, but if you talk about king 10 offsuit, that's 12 combinations, and it will mean that if you raise fold 12 combinations of queen 10, queen 10, queen jack, jack 10, king jack, that's a lot, and it will mean that you mainly raise fold from this situation, and as your opponent don't need much of an equity to rejam on you, because they only risk 20 big blind to win the 4.5 big blind you put in, because 2.5 big blind is usually in the pot from the small blind, the big blind, and the antes, and you put in another 2 big blinds with your min raise. Your opponents can take any like hands with reasonable equity, like even just jack 10 off, 10-9 off sometimes, king 9 off, small pocket pairs, small suited hands, 10-7 suited, king 7 suited, whatever they want to, and they can rejam on you. So that's why you have to be very cautious with your open ranges against skilled players. Against normal passive guys, you can still get away with just having min raise ranges, but against someone who understands the situation and rejams a lot on you, then that's why you see in the solver ranges that if you still want to play a relatively wide range from these situations with 20 big blinds, you have to create a limping range as well. But yeah, back to the big blind ranges. 1 second. Yeah, this is not that one. Yeah, so probably rejamming is better, but if it is a tight player, then calling is superior. So actually they are quite close. Many players don't open nowhere near the ranges we just discussed earlier. You hear me well, right?
Yeah, I can hear now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, on the flop, you probably want to call, or with a little bit deeper stack, you may also want to check raise sometimes just for protection. Like for starters, mainly when you actively put in money into the pot, either by a bet or a raise, those should serve mainly 3 reasons. The one is to value bet or value raise, when you have a reason to believe that the majority of the range that gives you action is worse than you. And the other reason is to bluff, when you can actually expect to fold out better hands, which is not the case here, really. And another reason which happens from time to time is to protect your holdings. So you are not expecting to fold out any better hand, and you don't expect to get called by any worse, but you want to deny equity from hands like king queen of clubs, which doesn't have a backdoor flush draw. They have two live overcards and a backdoor straight draw and a lot of barreling opportunity. So therefore, you want to make a cheap raise and fold out these. But I'm not sure if with deuces, with this shallow of a stack, you can actually do that. You probably just have to go with the check call. And maybe you can lead out sometimes on the turn, because check calling and leading on the turn is the closest move to actually check raising, and this check raising makes some sense for protection. Maybe check call leading is also does. And yeah, it depends on, like, if you are up against a passive player, leading out 12,000 on the turn is fine. They will have a hard time fighting back to your lead. So obviously against some kind of spazzy guy or world class regular, you probably don't want to execute this line too often. But against passive guys, this is actually quite a good counter strategy. And once again, you are not expecting to fold out any better hand. You are not expecting to get called by worse. Although sometimes it can happen, like ace king can call you, ace queen can call you, and that's fine. But yeah, you just have to fold here, I guess. People just don't bluff enough with 1/3 turn barrels. They are more likely to do this with actually hands like weak nines, pocket eights, pocket sevens, pocket sixes. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it felt like he was just setting up a river shove.
Yeah, that's the other kind of guy. Like even if they actually bluff this kind of sizing, yeah, it can easily happen that he jams on most of the rivers. Even if he doesn't have us beat, we will probably not be able to call on the river on the rivers. Yeah, and yeah, let's see these queens. Yeah, the sizing is fine. And we got a call. And on the flop, yeah, I elected to make a slightly bigger size, but just lazy. I was just lazy betting 1/3. Actually, these kind of textures like king low low, ace low low are surprisingly easy to play in 3-bet pots. But you have to be familiar with some basics. So if you put these kind of situations into a solver, then mainly you will see that the out of position player, the 3-better, c-bets 1/3 pot with close to entire range. And the most important consequence is that on the turns, even if the turn is a total blank, you should check basically your entire range. So I thought quite a lot why this is good for the solver, and probably the reason is that if the out of position player applies this, like c-betting whole range on the flop and checking whole range on the turn, then what the out of position player achieves that 2 streets of action already spent and no information given to the in position player, because you played your entire range on the flop the same way and your entire range on the turn the same way. And this can reduce the positional disadvantage you have here, and you have enough strong hands on this texture, on this flop, to justify a range bet. And on the turn, the important thing is to check, mostly check, or at least sometimes check your ace king and strongest holdings as well, just to give them a chance to float, to block bets, to do whatever they want to do. Because whenever you see a rainbow texture, you have to assume that they have quite easy floats here, like three types of backdoor flush draws here, and some backdoor straight draws as well in his ranges. So rainbow textures are not as innocent as many people think, especially if you are out of position. You always have to consider that your opponent can have easy floats with hands like ace queen suited, ace jack suited, ace 10 suited with a backdoor flush draw, any hand like even just 10-9 suited with a backdoor flush draw. Sometimes they get tempted not to fold to a 26,000 bet in position. So the more sticky your opponent is, the more floats you should put into their hands. So yeah, that's why my strategy on this texture is to bet 1/3 with my entire range and check with my entire range on any turn, and then you can make money from all the floats.
Yeah.
And on this river, I think if he like one of the strongest reads on the population is that they bet as soon as they can. They bet as soon as you let them to especially with their bluff candidates. They bet as soon as they have any chance to bet. And as the turn is somewhat favorable for them, I expect them to use most of their bluff candidates on the turn and fire right away. And therefore I think they don't have enough bluff candidates on this river to actually make us suffer. So I think we have an easy check fold. If it goes check, then we win most of the time. But if he bets, I think it's an easy check fold. The bet, once again, I like to bet on like block bet on rivers where my opponent's range is capped and I have a strong range, but this is not the case here. You don't have too many sevens three betting from the small blind, do you?
I don't think. I think it was that he doesn't have many sevens either. Maybe ace 7 suited, king 7 suited, maybe. I can't see him having many sevens either. So it was more of a hope crying call from tens or jacks.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like the weaker your opponent is, the more it is valid. But against, like, if you play against like Fedor Holtz or Probeers or some kind of animal, then I strongly suggest not to execute these blocking bets when you actually don't have too much reason to block them, because they will say that, yeah, I don't have too many sevens, but I have a few, so let's put some bluffs together and then make some raises. So yeah, but if you are playing against someone who is like just auto calling these kind of hands, then I cannot really disagree with the bet. But once again, as anticipated, or is that the right word, on the flop, he can have a lot of floats, a lot of natural floats, and even not so natural floats like this one. This is definitely an optimistic call. In these cases, I strongly suggest making a note to make sure that you are like it's not outrageous by any means. Against most of the guys, these floats can actually be profitable, but yeah, it tells a lot about the player, the player type, the profile, that he's the sticky guy, he's the one who goes for it. So yeah, I think we have some questions. No. Yeah, no questions. I just reread the chat. Yep. All right. By the way, if I haven't mentioned in the previous chat, we have opened our web shop, and you can order some nice apparels like this. You can find the panel for the web shop down there. My favorite one is the reverse quote from the rounders, like, if you can't spot the pro in half an hour at the table, you are the pro. A t-shirt with this saying. The original version is if you can't spot the fish in half an hour of the table, you are the fish. But I like the reverse version a little bit more. And you have some hoodies, some t-shirts as well. Good for Christmas if you have someone who loves poker, for sure. Yeah, talking about small blind ranges, this is a very, very important topic, because I may have mentioned in the earlier streams, but the main rule of efficiency is to find the frequent leaks. You should not spend hours discussing a very rare situations like river check raise ranges or whatever, which happens like once every week or once every month.
Choose on these. Yeah. Go back and watch TV. Thank you.
And even if you master a rare spot like river check raising, you cannot really capitalize on your knowledge, because it happens just so rarely. But if you find even just a small leak in your blind versus blind strategy, then those kind of added skills can seriously impact your win rate in a positive way. So
this is a big weakness of mine, is blind v blind play. I've not really done any study on it, so I know this is a spot what I'm not good at.
Yeah, like I can give you a very quick tour, like how just a few rules of thumb to what to apply. So going back to the full screen mode, I should go back to the ranges, and first we should talk about deep stack ranges, because this situation is a deep stack one anyways. So this is what you should do from this small blind with deep stacks. At first it looks quite chaotic, I know, but the main rules, the main surprising elements of this strategy are, first of all, you limp a lot of your strong pocket pairs, your strongest pocket pairs, aces, king, queens, jacks, tens, even nines. They are good enough for limp raising, and they actually work better by limp raising. Probably not nines, that's a little bit optimistic, but it can also happen. But tens plus, they work really good being in your limp raising strategy. The reason is that if you, let's say you are 100 big blind deep, and even if you make a big raise like 3.5x, the pot will be somewhere around like 8 big blinds, 8.5 big blinds if your opponent calls, and you're still gonna have like 10 times that much in your stacks. And this will create a lot of very marginal, very tough spots, even if you, especially if you play against someone really competent, then they will make your life hell by the river on many runouts. You will have very marginal holdings with one strong pocket pair. So you don't really want to induce these situations. And on the other hand, when you limp, your opponent will raise a very wide range. So versus the small blind limp, the big blind should do something like this. The brown means raising to 3.5x. And what you can see is that the big blind raises very wide for value and for playability, like low suited connectors as well, suited gappers, many suited kings and aces and queens, and some offsuit broadways. It's worth mentioning that not all the offsuit broadways are raised. If you're up against someone tricky, then actually checking Jack 10 offsuit or Queen 10 offsuit is a reasonable option. But what you should also see that the big blind raises 7 deuce offsuit almost 100%, and these kind of trashy holdings. The reason behind this is that the villain will have to limp fold many hands like Jack 4 offsuit, jack jack 3 offsuit they complete with, but they cannot really call a raise out of position. So the big blind profits by raising this and folding out some slightly better holdings, and that's very, very fine. And but mostly the big blind raises very wide for value. And if your opponent raises with queen 10 suited and he faces a limp raise, he has like really shitty options, like either calling a huge raise and playing in position, but with very reduced stack to pot ratio, like SPR3 or something like that, which often means that the limp raiser will bet like half pot on the flop and go all in on the turn. So therefore, the positional advantage cannot be really used. And the other option is to just fold queen 10 suited to a limp raise, which is kind of like not attractive at all, especially given that the small blind, this is not indicated in this chart, but probably based on the raise your rush chart, we can assume that the limp raise bluffs are mainly hands like low suited gappers, low suited connectors like 6-4 suited, 7-5 suited, 5-6 suited, and stuffs like that. And if your opponent is capable of limp raising these, then folding queen 10 suited is not an easy choice. But if you always call, then you run into the big hands. So that's exactly what we want to achieve here, to make the big blind, to punish the big blind for raising us really, really wide. And therefore, your biggest pocket pairs and your strongest aces are mainly limped with deep stacks. And the main part of your raising range, you raise to like 3.5x. In this situation, the main group is the suited strong hands, which are not strong enough for limp raising, but they can get a lot of value. They have a lot of playability. They can pick up straight draws, flush draws on the turn, so they don't suffer too much by being out of position. So therefore, you see queen 9 suited, king 10 suited, this type of suited Broadway and suited connected type hands to be raised, and also the suited aces as well. And you can see some or quite a few offsuit hands also raised, but with quite low frequency. I think there is no real hand with mainly raising, like ace jack off is one hand, but you generally don't want to build pots out of position with offsuit hands. These hands are raised with low frequency just to make sure that you have some flush draw type hands on monotone textures, or you have some flush draws on flush completing turns, etc. But they are not really essential to be in your raising range. So you can even just simplify this to like limp your offsuit hands, raise your strongest suited hands, and limp raise big pocket pairs, biggest aces, and limp raise some suited connectors if you think your opponent is aggressive enough to punish or to work in some limp raises. This is basically what you should apply with deep stacks from the small blind. And if we go down to 30 big blinds, we see a whole different strategy. So with 30 big blinds, you have to apply a much more direct strategy. Limp raising aces with 30 big blind doesn't accomplish too much anymore, because like what size do you limp raise to? What do you achieve? It doesn't really make sense to limp raise to like 10 or 12 big blind out of 30 big blinds. That's not what you want to do. you will not suffer any longer by building a single raise pot out of position, because the stack to pot ratio is much shallower, so your opponent cannot really punish you on the river. Many times there is just one bet left to the river, so you don't have to worry about being raised or anything. So that's why you see that with 30 big blind, you should just play a very direct strategy, raising your strongest suited hands, raising your strongest pairs, and adding some suited trash type hands and some medium offsuit hands as well, which you don't mind raise folding. You don't raise these kind of hands because these are your limp raise kind of traps, and you don't want to raise all your offsuit holdings because then you don't have enough limp calling hands. So basically that's behind. You see some red hands as well for straight open jamming from the small blind. I don't think these are like super necessary to be in your strategy. You can simply just open fold these or just open limp these like the pocket fours. Probably open jamming these are just slightly better than open limping. So if your opponent is a fantastic post-low player, you probably want to open jam. But if your opponent is a weakish guy, you mainly just want to limp this. I'm not sure. I always play this with limp, but I can be convinced that open jamming is slightly higher EV. You can also see some offsuit middling aces to perform better by open jamming, but it's not a big deal. You can just simplify the strategy to limping and raising. And what is important is that the size for the sizing, you see 5 small blind, which means that the biggest bet, which is the big blind so far, plus 5 big blinds. So this is actually 3.5 big blind is the sizing, and this 3.5 big blind allows you to actually execute some steals. So that's why if you use a smaller sizing, you cannot really raise hands like 9 tray suited or 10 deuce suited, because they will always get called and you just drive yourself into trouble. So it's important to apply to execute the right open raise size, which is 3.5x. And the next category which we arrive is 20 big blind, or maybe we can take a short look at the 25 big blind strategy, where actually open jamming becomes a very valid strategy. So now pocket fours, pocket threes, pocket deuces are probably clearly better to open jam and avoid all the frustration. Just take a shortcut and jam. And these middling aces are probably better by jamming. But other than these, you still see a very similar strategy to 30 big blinds. So raising your strongest, mostly suited hands and adding some trashy suited hands as well as steals, and some middling offsuit hands as steals. And now the sizing is somewhat smaller because 25 big blinds deep, with the 3x open, you already have some fold equity because your opponent doesn't have that big of a positional advantage.
Yeah.
I think I answered the question of Darren. So small suited connected disc and gappers are the most likely limp raise hands there. And with 20 big blind we see a whole different strategy. With 20 big blind we don't really want to build the pot any longer, because we would have two options. One, to raise small, which would not allow us to build in too many steals, and your opponent versus a small raise, your opponent would have a relatively easy job to just flat a lot in position and trying to realize equity, and he would succeed with that. So it cannot achieve too much. And raising big from the small blind with 20 big blind effective would open the opportunity for our opponent to rejam on us quite wide. So that's once again not a really attractive option. So that's why you see that with 20 big blinds from the small blind, you mainly want to limp and or open jam. And now we see a new group of hands for open jamming. These are once again I just have to adjust just to see the alert box over the display. Anyways, so the new group of hands which you see as open jams are the low suited connectors and suited gappers, or middling suited connectors and middling suited gappers. If you're a normal human being and you first see these hands and everyone folds around to you on the small blind, your first thought naturally is to, okay, I will see some flops, I will see some turns, I will make some flush draws and straight draws, and I will play post flop, etc. But no, with the 20 big blind, these hands profit more by simply open jamming and folding out a lot of like offsuit broadways, offsuit middling hands, like queen nine of suit cannot do much but fold, and that's a big win for 9-7 suited, and all this type of queen 10, king 9 of suit, jack 10 of suit, jack 9 of suit, 10 9 of suit. These are all miles better hands than these what you jam here. So that's their biggest win. That's the biggest reason why these hands are open jammed. And yeah, these hands just don't play good enough to all these offsuit hands, offsuit aces. They have enough fold equity to justify a jam, but they don't play good enough to actually build a pot out of position. Offsuit hands are very rarely hands you would like to make non-all-in raises out of position. This is a big takeaway from the solver ranges. So yeah, you want to jam your lowest and middling pocket pairs, you want to jam your middling suited connectors, and you want to jam offsuit aces and some of the offsuit broadways as well. Yeah.
Ace Queen off seems quite strong to open jump 20 bigs from small blind.
Yeah, like we just have to believe the solver. They try every possible strategy, and this is what they came up with. Like probably like if if it would be dealt ace queen all the time, every single time, then probably we would still open jam, because then our range would be face up, and we could not put a lot of pressure on our opponent post flop. So yeah, but whatever, you get what you mean. Like in vacuum, ace queen could probably figure out some more sophisticated solution for playing from the small blind, but probably their role is also to give protection to these kind of light jams. So I can imagine that if you don't jam ace queen of suit, then some of these other jams become exploitable, and your opponent can start calling you down with some more marginal hands, and that's why it says that yeah, I sacrifice some value by open jamming ace queen of suit, but at least I can put some other hands in to my open jamming range, and altogether this will be a higher EV strategy than just doing something else with ace queen. Yeah, but yeah, the main takeaway is that under 20 big blinds, under normal circumstances, you don't want to have non-only raises. Once again, this is a situation opening from the small blind where you have a lot of room to adjust to your opponent. You only have one guy left, so it's not like opening from under the gun when the whole table is behind you and you really cannot adjust to one specific player. But opening from the small blind is always the question of your opponent, the big blind, and also if there is ICM involved, the whole strategy can turn around. But by default, if you have a strong player on the big blind, this is what you should apply, or something similar to this one should be applied. One surprising thing uh, you may question are these limps with sevens and eights and ace 8 suited and ace 7 suited, because if you are up against a passive player, so let's see first of all what your opponent should do versus your limp. So versus the small blind limp, the big blind should do something like this. So he should have quite a lot of non-all-in raises. He should check suited aces, which probably doesn't happen too much in practice. They should check some suited broadways, which your opponents may jam over you. So it's like I have mixed feelings, because on the other hand, the Monker, the solver big blind raises quite a lot of these offsuit semi-bluff type hands, which have some playability, but somehow they seem to perform better by having the initiative. And yeah, and also some straight out trash hands like 9 use of suit, 10 use of suit, the big blind raises. So I don't think your average opponent will raise these kind of trashy hands often enough, but they may jam hands like these. And in that case, I think you do better by simply open jamming your sevens and sixes and eights maybe, or just raising and inducing a rejam from ace6 of suit, ace4 of suit, ace deuce of suit, which ace deuce of suit may not call your open jam. So therefore, with sevens, you do better by making a non-all-in raise like 3x, and then your opponent rejams on you with ace 3 of suit, ace deuce of suit, and it works fine. Yeah, but I don't want to hold you back from your ladies, and obviously we are nowhere near finishing this hand history. I hope you like this format, and I hope it was informative.
Yeah, it's very good. Brilliant. Thank you.
All right. Maybe we can continue with like mostly depending on you. I have a guest for the 29th of December, a special guest, a mental coach, James Whitted. So that date is fixed. But other than that, I think if you are in, I don't want to cause you trouble before Christmas. So if you
I break up from work tomorrow, so I'm free.
Okay, then I think we can continue this next week and cover some more from your tournament. And yeah, thank you for the chat, for being here. If you like this format, then please follow me on Twitter, subscribe to me on YouTube, and yeah, visit Check This Side, upload your tournaments, join our Discord server. We have a very supportive Discord community with more than 700 maybe now players in. So yeah, we are growing pretty fast. Come join, ask your questions, and share your thoughts. And many thanks for supporting the channel. And yeah, have a good week. And yeah, cheers to the ladies. They are super cute.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here.
I got the mother's look.